It's 4:47 p.m. on a Thursday. You're walking out of court. Your phone has been on silent for 2 hours. You get back to the car and you see 3 missed calls, 2 voicemails, and a website form submission. One of those is a good case. You can feel it. But by the time you listen, call back, and try to coordinate a consult, the prospect has already talked to 2 other firms. They booked with the one that responded while you were still in the hallway. That's not a marketing problem. It's an intake system problem. What you want is simple. If you turned off your phone for 48 hours, the firm should still capture, qualify, and schedule every good lead without anyone improvising. And you can do that without hiring another intake person. If you're willing to be precise about what gets automated, what stays human, and where the data lives. Start with the reality of how leads enter your firm. Not how you wish they entered, how they actually enter. Website forms, chat, phone calls, email, referrals, sometimes a DM, sometimes a paralegal forwarding a voicemail. Now think about what has to be true for a lead to become a signed matter. They have to reach you. They have to be a fit. You have to clear conflicts. You have to get on the calendar. They have to show up. They have to receive an engagement agreement. They have to sign it. Payment has to happen, if that's your model. Where firms link revenue is usually not at the end, it's in the middle. It's the missed call that never gets returned. The form that sits in an inbox. The consult that gets scheduled but not confirmed. The prospect who shows up unprepared so the meeting runs long and nobody follows up clearly. So the goal of automation here is not AI everywhere. The goal is response speed, consistent qualification, clean routing, and one source of truth for intake data. That's it. The minimum setup is smaller than most lawyers assume. On the website, you need 2 things. A conversational front door that can handle basic questions and push people into the right path. And a form that can ask different questions based on the answers. So you stop booking consultations with people who are never going to hire you. On the phone line, you need a way to answer when humans can't. That can be an AI voice agent, or it can be a high-quality answering service that follows a script and books into your calendar. The key is not the label. The key is that the call gets answered, the caller gets screened, and the next step gets scheduled. Behind the scenes, you need an automation layer that moves information without retyping it. If you need a CRM or case management system, then it's the single place intake lives. No spreadsheets, no sticky notes, no, it's in someone's email. Now let's walk through what this looks like when it's working. A prospect lands on your website, 9:30 p.m. They click chat or they start a form. They ask a small set of qualifying questions. 3 to 5 is usually enough. Jurisdiction, matter type, timing. Opposing party name for early conflict flags, and 1 question that tells you whether they can pay, if that's relevant to your practice. Pause here, because this is where lawyers make a predictable mistake. They either ask nothing, and then they pay for it with unqualified consults, or they ask everything, and the form becomes a barrier that drives away good leads. You're not building a disposition. You're building a filter. The answers get captured and pushed into your intake record automatically. Now, the system makes a routing decision. If the lead is clearly qualified, They get offered consultation times immediately. Not, we'll get back to you. Not, someone will call you tomorrow. They get times. If the lead is borderline, it gets routed to staff review and the answer is attached, so the reviewer is not starting from zero. And if the lead is not a good fit, they get a polite decline or a referral list, depending upon your ethics rules and your preferences. And that response happens consistently every time, without someone having to remember what to say. Then, scheduling happens. The scheduling link is embedded right where the prospect already is, in the chat, in the email, and the text message. Once they book, confirmations go out automatically, and reminders go out automatically. Most firms see the biggest no-show reduction from 2 reminders. One about 24 hours before, and one about 2 hours before. Not because people are irresponsible, because people are busy, and their consult is not the center of their day. Now, before the consult, you collect the information that makes the consult efficient. A short pre-consult questionnaire. Document upload if needed. Names for conflict checking. Key dates. The 1 or 2 facts that determine whether a case is viable. That information attaches to the intake record automatically. So when you walk into the consult, you're not asking for basics. You're making decisions. After the consult, the follow-up is triggered based on outcome. If it's a good fit, the engagement letter goes out promptly with the right matter details and a payment link if you use one. If they're not ready, they go into a controlled follow-up sequence. Not spam, not just checking in. Useful information, deadlines, what to do next, what happens if they wait. And if they're not a fit, the file is closed cleanly with notes so you don't keep relitigating the same lead letter. Now, let's talk numbers, because this is where the trade-offs become obvious. Say you get 50 inbound leads a month. If 30% fall through the cracks, that's 15 leads. If only 3 of those would have become paying clients at $2,000 each, that's $6,000 a month in lost revenue. A lean automation stack for this is usually in the range of about $250 to $600 a month, depending upon what you choose for chat, phone coverage, automation, and scheduling. If the system helps you close 2 additional matters a month at $2,000 each, that's $4,000. Even after tool costs, you're ahead. And that's before you count the operational benefit of fewer interruptions and fewer fire drills. One firm that I worked with didn't overhaul everything. They added 2 changes. Calls that weren't answered live were handled by an AI receptionist that could qualify and book directly into the partner's calendar. And every book consult triggered an automated reminder plus a short pre-consult questionnaire. Within about 90 days, their show-up rate moved from roughly 60% to just over 80%. And they average 5 to 7 additional signed matters per month without increasing ad spend and without hiring another intake coordinator. That result wasn't magic. It was fewer missed calls, fewer unqualified consults, and fewer no-shows. Now, there are failure modes you should plan for. The biggest one is data fragmentation. If chat has one set of answers, the answering service has another, and your staff retypes a third version to case management, you will create errors and conflict risks. So you decide upfront where intake data lives. Everything pushes there. Another failure mode is over-automation and sensitive movements. If someone is calling about an emergency injunction, a domestic violence situation, or an imminent deadline, you don't want a long, scripted interaction. You want fast triage and a human escalation path. So you build that in. Another failure mode is compliance and confidentiality. You need to know what tools store, what they retain, and what they use for training. You need to control what information gets collected before conflicts are cleared. And you need to make sure your messaging doesn't create unintended attorney-client relationships. That's not a reason to avoid automation. It's a reason to implement it deliberately. So here's the practical decision point. If you're getting at least about 20 leads a month, intake interrupts someone daily, and you cannot tell me your missed lead rate and your no-show rate, you're operating blind. In that situation, an automated intake system usually pays for itself within a few signed matters. If your volume is lower, or you're still refining who you actually want as a client, start smaller. Use a smart form with conditional logic. Use structured manual follow-up. Track the numbers for a month. Then, add automation where the bottleneck is real. And keep the scope tight. Pick one entry point, website leads or phone calls. Make it reliable. Measure it. Then expand. If you want, tell me the single most painful part of your current intake. Missed calls, no-shows, or chasing paperwork. And I'll suggest the smallest automation change that typically fixes that specific failure mode.